Hi, dear students. Very good morning and welcome to today's class of critical reasoning for MBA entrance examinations. So, for quite some while, I have been really looking forward to teach critical reasoning because critical reasoning is something that bothers most of the students aiming for any MBA entrance examinations and across all the types of examinations. Okay, ZAT, CAT, or anything of that sort. First of all, pardon for the delay. There were some technical issues that I was resolving. It has to be resolved on our own in case it happens. Well, so what is critical reasoning? It's a method of picking out valuable meanings, inferences, conclusion based on content given by the author. And critical reasoning fundamentally is not just, it's not just question given and then finding out either there's the argument strengthening it, the arguments weakening it, or so. Rather, critical reasoning is more abstract. Okay? Critical reasoning, reading comprehension is a part of critical reasoning. Para completion is a critical reasoning in itself. Para jumbles is one of the best examples of critical reasoning. And then others like what is the central idea, what justifies the central idea, are again critical reasoning. So essentially, it's reasoning. Before we jump to the content, let's see that what Unacademy has for CAT value offering. You have iconic CAT 2021, you have test series, special classes, great educators, batches, practice session. So you'll have full length mocks, free special classes, dedicated batches, and practice sections. There are 3000 plus hours of live classes from a repository, plus the new classes that get added every day. Then you have 1200 plus hours of special classes. You also have 45 plus new tests every month. Okay. So choose a subscription plan that suits you. Plus and iconic. Iconic, we have extra stuff like you have a personal coach, which is the most important for any examination, rather any success in life, having a mentor. Then you have other MBA entrance examinations preparation. Other than CAT, you'll have expert guidelines given, and most important, you'll have test analyzed by them. Remember that preparing for an exam is just, preparing for a mock is just 50% of the task done. Most important thing is to analyze that exam, dig out the results, and know what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, which all sections I'm lacking. Am I lacking in speed or am I lacking in accuracy, and so on. Now let's move to this great thing that you should know, the huge discounts that we are offering on CAT subscription. So 1 month 3,500, 3 months you have 17% off, on 6 months you have 33% off, on 1 year you have almost 60% off, and bumper discount you have is on 24 months, which is 75% off. Too good, is not it? Now, another great thing is that, just let me tell you, in case you use my code, which is Shalinee, SHALINEE, you're going to get an additional 10% off on these prices. Nothing like it, right? And then let's congratulate all our Unacademy winners. They are learning crack 10 2020. They crack CAT 2020 with flying colors, and of course, you could be the next. How? As simple as that. Just enroll now. for the classes. We have three batches over here. 18 January, other batch is from 19 January, and the final batch is from 22nd of January. Now, guys, see, the best thing is that in all these batches, you have the best possible combination of teachers possible, right? For all, like Agni, Bharat, and Himanshu for 18th January batch. Then for LRDI, Verbal, and Quant, you have Ananda, Udit, and Bobby for 19th January. Similarly, you have Hitesh, Dhrubajyoti, Ritu for 22nd January batch. So we have very well segmented it depending on the needs of the variety of students that we have, diversity of students to address the concern. 18 January, you have started weekday evening batches. From 19 January, you have weekday morning batches. And 22nd, you have working professional batches. Finally, let's see about Unacademy Champions League. Unacademy Champions League started on 3rd January. It happens on alternate Sundays on 5th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Win exciting prizes and scholarships, get in-depth insights with same-day analysis. So just don't think, give a second thought to this. As a teacher, I would say you definitely must take part in this Champions League, appear for the tests or quizzes that are there. They'll only help you prepare and they'll give you gist of competition and the benefits that you get from competition and that adrenaline rush that will definitely set your speed to 2x for preparation of CAT. Okay, having said that, let's now begin. So, lastly, about me, so that you understand where I'm coming from and you can pay more attention, which is required. I'm Shalinee and I completed my MBA from IIM Indore. I have a teaching experience of 2 years in VARC. Finally, why do I think that Unacademy will set you in the right direction? Unacademy will set in the right direction because you have daily life classes, structured courses, live test quizzes, unlimited access. And I said use my code Shalini and get additional discount. So now that I've told you what is critical reasoning, let me tell you in the terms of dictionary. So critical reasoning means making clear reasoned conclusion based on given facts and underlying assumptions. So whatever reasoning that you make has to be clear. It should not be ambiguous. Then you have reasoned conclusions. Having good reasons based on given facts. Remember, not your own, but based on the given facts and underlying assumptions. So there must be assumptions. Okay. Then comes next. There are two requirements for solving a CR question correctly. Okay. Number one thing that you need is knowledge of basic components of critical reasoning. So you get there are very basic components of critical reasoning that you need to know before you start off with any question. Then you have knowledge of different types of questions and tricks to solve this question. So what are the type of questions that are asked and the tricks or rather some insights to solve these questions, okay? Now comes next basic components of critical reasoning. So when I said that the next thing that you need to know is basic components of critical reasoning, what are those components, guys? A clear and complete statement made by the author which can be verified. A fact is also called a premise. Okay? So fact is always clear. या तो ये है या तो वो है. दोनों चीजें नहीं. Complete है. It is complete in itself. It's not like a phrase, but it is made by the author. Remember, okay? And it can be verified. So अगर वो कहे that in India we are observing a huge reduction in the number of female workers, so that is a clear thing, and it has been made by the author, and it should be able to be verified, and it is also called premise. Why is it called premise? Because around the premise or around the given statements only will you be given the questions or able to find questions. Okay. Next comes fact. What is fact? Fact says that fact is a clear and complete statement. Okay. It is made by the author. Sorry, let's come to conclusion. Conclusion is the point which is author is trying to convey or wants to convince us. What is the assumption? But before that, what is conclusion? So conclusion is not your side of the story, what you have concluded. Rather, conclusion is the point that the author is trying to convey or wants to convince us with. Okay. So never assume that what you think, what you can concluding is the conclusion. Okay. Next comes assumption. What is assumption? Assumption is an unstated fact that was in the mind of author while issuing or writing the given statement. So it is unstated, and it was in the mind of the author while issuing or writing the given statement. Okay? So it's not stated, it's unstated in the background. And it was in the mind of the author, not your assumption. Remember that. And when was it in the mind of the author? While he was issuing or writing the given statement. Good enough? Yeah. Next. There can be more than one assumption for any given situation. An assumption is always with respect to an author or a writer. Okay? So the assumption is always with respect to author, as I already told you. And there can be more than one assumption for any given situation. That also has to be kept in mind. Comes inference. Inference is an unstated conclusion drawn on the basis of given fact. Again, inference is unstated conclusion and it is drawn on the basis of a given fact. There can be more than one inference for any situation, and there can also be more than one assumption. But an inference is always with respect to the listener or the reader. Just like the assumption is always with respect to the author, an inference is always with respect to the listener. This is also unstated, just like assumption, and it is drawn on the basis of given fact. Now comes types of critical reasoning questions in verbal ability. So what do you think, guys? Are this enough? Let's go and see. First type is strengthening or weakening the conclusion. Okay. So there will be a conclusion that will be given by the author, and then you will be given options कि देखो कि इन चारों में से इस पर्टिकुलर कंक्लूजन को क्या चीज स्ट्रेंथन कर रही है और क्या चीज वीकेन कर रही है. ठीक है. Then comes find an assumption. So, what is finding an assumption? As I said, that assumption is the unstated fact in the mind of the author while he is writing or issuing that piece of writing. Third is finding an inference. So, inference is something you draw out of those given sentences. It can be more than one, but it's your side of the story based on the given facts by the author. Comes paradox. What is paradox? So, when two contradictory things exist together, we call it a paradox. So, they might ask you, maybe the passage is paradoxical. They might ask you that how to resolve this paradox. Finally comes mimic the reasoning. What is mimicking the reasoning? There must be some reasoning given and you'll have to mimic it. So find something similar. Okay. So next, let's move to a question. This is the question, guys. Please read it. I'll give you 2 minutes because it's the first question. It's 10:22. I'll give you time until 10:24 and then we'll discuss this. 1 minute more. So we are done with 2 minutes. Let's see what is written. So first question, which appeared in CAT 2017, says that typewriters are the epitome of a technology that has been comprehensively rendered obsolete by the digital age. So as soon as digital invasion happened, era started, many things got disrupted. And typewriters are one of those things that got disrupted. Okay? Typewriters are one of those things that were comprehensively disrupted or made obsolete by the digital invasion. Now, the ink comes off a ribbon. Yes, they weigh a ton. I don't know how many of you have seen a typewriter ever. Maybe a couple of you who are younger than me might not have seen it because I think I was the last generation that saw a typewriter, that too in my very early childhood. But they're also personal, portable, and above all, it was private. So just type a document, lock it away, and more or less the only way anyone else can get it is if you give it to them. Hmm. So this shows privacy. And this is why, this is because you can control the access. That is why the Russians have decided to go back to typewriters in some government offices. And in the US, some departments never ever abandoned them. They have been using it, even though it has been comprehensively rendered obsolete. Yet, it is not just the resistance to algorithms and secret surveillance that keeps typewriter production lines well won, at least in business. So they say that it's not just their resistance to algorithms and secret surveillance because of which it is there, nor just the nostalgic appeal of the metal body and the keys. A typewriter demands something particular, which is attentiveness. So it's not just the secrecy, the nostalgia attached with it, and that it is devoid of algorithm and it can be kept secret that it is in market, but because it demands attentiveness. By the time the paper is loaded, the ribbon tightened, the carriage returned, the spacing and margins set, there is a big premium on hitting the right key. You know how? Sorting out ideas, pulling together a kind of order, and organizing details before actually striking off. There can be no thinking on screen with a typewriter. See, so when you usually use a phone or a mobile or a laptop or any digital typing device, there are other things that you can do that tend to divert your attention, to gain your attention, to sway away your attention. Then can be no thinking on a screen with a typewriter. No, nor there are any distractions, no online shopping, no urgent emails, no Twitter, no need even for electricity. So it is perfect for writing in a remote hideaway. So you don't even need electricity. You can even take your typewriter, go on a drive, write in an isolated area, take the best feel of it. Finally, they say that the thinking process is accompanied by the encouraging clack of keys and the ratchet of the carriage return ping. So the thinking process is not that quiet, that there is the melody entwined by the sound of the keys and of the carriage return. The thinking process is accompanied by this. Now comes the question. So now that you've read the paragraph, do not forget to see what exactly is the question asking. So the question says that which one of the following best describes what the passage is trying to do? A says that it describes why people continue to use typewriters even in the digital age. I can say that this is an answer, so let me keep it aside. This can be right, so let me keep it in the bucket. B says it argues that typewriters will continue to be used even though they are an absolute obsolete technology. No, this is a very definitive answer. This is a one line that was touched by the passage. The passage was not entirely about, it was not entirely about how it will be continued to be used even when that is an obsolete technology. Now comes C. C कहता है कि it highlights the personal benefits of using typewriters. I don't think so. इसने तो बिजनेस में बताया, सीक्रेसी बताया, यूएस डिपार्टमेंट में, रशियन डिपार्टमेंट में बताया. तो पर्सनल बेनिफिट्स के अलावा भी बहुत कुछ बताया है. So it is not, this is just one of the ideas, not the entire. Comes D. It shows that computers offer fewer options than typewriters. Is it that computers offer fewer options than typewriters? No, this is completely contradictory. तो ये तो हो ही नहीं सकता आंसर, इसको तो आप काट दो. ठीक है, अब क्या बचा? सी. सी भी नहीं है, पर्सनल से ज्यादा बचा रहे थे और बस सही आंसर क्या बचा? वन. वन कहता है डिस्क्राइब्स व्हाई पीपल कंटिन्यू टू यूज टाइपराइटर्स इवन इन द डिजिटल एज. Very well. It is saying because it starts off by saying that even in the digital age, typewriters are being used, and then it says that how and why. टू कहता है that according to the passage some governments still use typewriters. And why is it so? Reason number one is because they do not want to abandon old technologies that may be useful in the future. Can be said, but I don't think so. This is the answer. Okay, guys, first take a minute and read through these questions and we'll solve. Have you read? So if you've read, let's move. According to the passage, some governments still use typewriters. And why is that so? Because they do not want to abandon old technologies that may be useful in the future. No, this is not the answer. Comes B. They want to ensure that typewriter production lines remain in business. No. So they typewriter production lines are in business is there, but they have modified the statement, word play करा है. आप बस सेकंड पार्ट देख के इसको चूज मत करना प्लीज, ठीक है. अब आते ए पे. ए कहता है they do not want to abandon old technologies that may be useful in the future. I don't think so. They do not want to abandon old technologies that may be useful in the future. Is it so? I don't think so. Because this is not written anywhere. It is an old technology is written, but not. This is a very conclusion which is out of scope, which is not in the passage. Come see. They like the nostalgic appeal of the typewriter? Of course not, yeah. Why will government bother about what is nostalgic, what is not? Right? It is a personal benefit, not a government's benefit. So you're definitely going to cross option number C2. Comes D. They can control who reads the document. Mhm. Can they control? Yes. This is the reason. Na? They said that it can be logged and only access possible is by the person who has written, unlike computer and internet where it is stored on a digital media or cloud and is highly exposed to being what do you call it? Highly exposed to being stolen. That is why to control who can read, you use a typewriter. So answer is D. Comes this fourth sentence of the passage. Type a document and lock it away, and more or less the only way anyone else can get it is if you give it to them. Clearly shows that it is possible to control who reads the document. Yes. Third, the writer praises typewriters for all of the following reasons except. अब ये देखो यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन क्या ये कह रहा है. The writer praises typewriters for all the following reasons except. तो पहला रीजन कह रहा है कि They can only be used for typing. Unlike computers, they can only be used for typing. Okay. This he has praised it for this. That if it is only for typing, then my focus is going to be entirely there. Then comes B. B says, you cannot revise what you have typed. Okay, yes, he was sad about this, so we can see this. Typewriters are noisier. Let's see. So he said, yes, your writing experience is accompanied by the noise, which is like a melody. So he has also praised it. So this is also not the answer. Typewriters are messier to use than computer, is it? Yes. He has not mentioned anywhere that it's messy. So we cannot even comment about this. Only thing he said that you cannot revise noisier. You cannot revise what you have written in the typewriter. So this is one thing that he has not praised it for. That you cannot revise. Second thoughts are a disaster. So if you see the first para, second line, it says that second thoughts are a disaster. Done. Now let's come to the next question. Again give you a couple of minutes and you can go through this question and then we'll discuss this. So आप पढ़ लो आपको मैं 2 मिनट दे रही हूँ. I'm right here. कैट 2016 का क्वेश्चन है ये, ठीक है. Done. Let's start discussing. First thing, French cuisine is highly regarded all over the world. Yet in Paris, there are more American restaurants selling burgers and fries, which many people now class as junk food, than there are in any other European capital city. Obviously, the French are very fond of junk food and not too proud to eat it. So, seems like this is the conclusion of the author. This one. This is the conclusion of the author that obviously the French are not very fond of junk food and are not too proud to, are very fond of junk food and not very proud to eat it. The question is now, which of the following, if true, would most weaken the author's contention? So this saying that जो ये कंटेंशन है ऑथर का इसको नीचे के कौन से आर्गुमेंट्स वीक करेंगे तो ये ध्यान से देख लो क्योंकि ये स्ट्रेंथनिंग वीकनिंग टाइप का क्वेश्चन है ठीक है पहला क्वेश्चन कहता है पहला पॉइंट कहता है देयर आर ऑल्सो अ लार्जर नंबर ऑफ लेबनीज रेस्टोरेंट इन पेरिस देन देयर आर इन यूरोपियन कैपिटल सिटीज so this is not hitting the argument right it is just saying vaguely it's just adding an extra point by saying that there are a larger number of Lebanese restaurants than there are in European capital cities. Useless. Now comes B. So A is not the option. Okay, let me tick off A. Eliminate करते हैं है ना एलिमिनेशन का हमेशा ध्यान रखना एक एक ऑप्शन पे जाओ ना अगर ये ना पता चले कि क्या हो रहा है तो अगर इतना भी पता लगे कि क्या नहीं हो रहा उसको काट दो उससे एटलीस्ट आपका सेट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस लिमिटेड हो जाए ठीक है अब आते बी पे बी कहता है फ्रेंच cordon bleu cuisine is very expensive dude what do I have to do with this if this is expensive or cheap they're not talking about any particular cuisine they're not talking about what is expensive and what is cheap okay out of context come C the number of French tourists eating in New York burger restaurant is very low okay so I don't know if what it is number of French tourists eating in New York burger restaurant is very low. What do I have to do with what is happening in New York? I'm bothered about what is happening in Paris. That is why this is again an out of scope option. So I'm crossing ABC. Now I'm left with D and E. D कहता है junk food is actually has high nutritional value when eaten in moderation. I'm not talking about the health value, nutritional value, or quantity, or the impact of whatever junk food is doing. So please cross this junk food. This is an extension of the word junk food and then they're playing around with words for confusing you. इसमें कहीं पे भी ये नहीं लिखा जंक फूड से क्या वास्ता है क्या नहीं तो मुझे लगता है हमारा आंसर ई है क्योंकि ई बचा है लेकिन तब भी मैं ज़रूर एक बार देखूंगी कि वो सही है कि नहीं मैं सिर्फ इसलिए टिक नहीं करूंगी क्योंकि वो ही बचा है So they say that there are an unusually large number of American tourists in Paris who eat at burger joints. Okay, do you think so? I don't know. I mean, they say that there are unusually large number of American tourists in Paris who eat at burger joints. So this is the right answer. ये कह रहा है कि actually जो पेरिस में बहुत सारे बर्गर जॉइंट्स हैं फ्राइज बेच रहे हैं वहाँ पे पेरिस के लोग यूरोपियन लोग नहीं खा रहे वहाँ पे अमेरिकन टूरिस्ट खा रहे हैं इसीलिए the number of restaurants and the number of burgers and fries that those American restaurants are selling in Paris is so high because there are a lot of tourists. So comes this. So this question, ये तो शायद आपको visible भी नहीं होगा ना? Let me see a question that can be visible to you. Okay, this question. Let's do this type of question, main idea wala. As I said, I'll give you 2 minutes. Not even a minute is over. Done? I think you guys have read enough. Now let's start cracking. So it says that, contrary to popular belief, the idea of evolution did not originate with Darwin, but was around for decades before he came along. So, as we say that Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, we attribute the theory of evolution entirely to Darwin, but it's not so. Okay? It was around for decades before he came along. So, what was his accomplishment? His accomplishment was to come up with a workable scheme by which it likely occurred. Darwin, it must be said, had unusual exposure to the enormous diversity of life on Earth for a man living in his time. So they say that Darwin had unusual exposure to the enormous diversity of life for a man living through his voyage. Agreed. But his eureka moment came not through studying biology, not in those periods when he was reading biology or he was exposed to a huge variety of flora and fauna. Rather, it came by reading the paper of an economist. Oh, interesting. The economist's name was Thomas Malthus, which showed that populations grow faster than the resources to sustain them. It was then that Darwin realized that only those best adapted to their environment would survive and pass on their traits to offspring. Okay, so when he read that paper by economist, he realized that only those best adapted to their environment would survive and pass on their traits to offspring. The saying, what is the main idea of this paragraph? Option 1, it is impossible to come up with big insights without crossing domains. I don't know why is he given this as an option. This is a very generic, very broad in scope, which can be interpreted in n number of ways. So definitely, this is not the right answer. 2. Idea of evolution did not originate with Darwin. Can say main idea. Yes, we can say that this is an option. So let us mark this. Okay. Now comes C. What does C say? C says that it's Malthus, not Darwin, who should be given credit for the theory of evolution. No, we can't say this. Malthus had an economic concept. Darwin did not bring in this, but we cannot say that the credit should be given to Malthus. Darwin also had things to contribute. We just said that उससे पहले से आया हुआ है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि Malthus को दिया हुआ है. Then comes 4. 4 says that it was the connections that Darwin uncovered more than the facts themselves that made his work important. Yes. The main idea, it was the connections that Darwin uncovered more than the facts that made his work important. So this is a more substantial idea. So let's see 2 और 4 में. The idea did not originate with Darwin. एक statement है, एक part है. But main idea ये था लिखने का कि actually ये तो है ही है कि evolution did not originate with Darwin, but it was the connections that Darwin uncovered and not the facts that made his work important. Okay, so there you go. My answer is 4. उसने बताया ना कि कैसे उसने ये नहीं करा कि एक्सप्लोर किया बायोलॉजी और निकाल के ले आया कॉन्सेप्ट, रादर एक इकोनॉमिस्ट के वजह से उसे समझ आया. So by saying this, we conclude this particular question. If you have any doubts, please write on the chat window. Okay. Now we'll have the last question from today. Please read it. Take 2 minutes and read. Have you read? So let's start explaining. Many scientific studies have found links between genius and mental illness, particularly bipolar disorder, in which patients have violent mood swings between elation and depression. So they're saying that a lot of scientific studies have found links between intelligence and mental illness, and which mental disease, particularly bipolar disorder. Because in bipolar disorder, what happens? Patients have violent mood swings between elation and depression. So they suddenly feel very happy, and the other moment they are very depressed. In one interesting Swedish study, 7 lakh Swedes had intelligent tests at the age of 16 and then again at the age of 26. And those who scored well were 4 times more likely than the others to have developed bipolar disorder. So they're saying that those who scored well, means those whose IQs were better, were intelligent, were more prone to having developed bipolar disorder. And now, the US neurologist James Fallon came up with a convincing argument based on his own findings. And he said that the brain area that is involved in mood swings is the same where creativity is born. That's why we can see that some people can draw previously unseen connection among ideas, images, shapes, and the like. Finally, which of the following is inferred from the above? Those with bipolar disorder are likely to be highly intelligent. Is it? Can't say. Really can't say. This is too conclusion, and this is not even the main idea. Comes to. Two कहता है most people who excel in creativity are likely suffering from a mental problem. God, no. He just said that when mood swing is there, same area has creativity. They never said that how these two are impacting each other. And it is not being definitive by saying that people who excel in creativity are likely suffering from a mental problem. It did not say so. Now comes three. Three says that often there is a correlation between mental illness and genius. So I think this is a good answer. You know why? Because it says that there is certain correlation. It's not being definitive, right? It is just being, what do you call it? It's just very subtly touching and saying that there is a correlation, and it's not being as definitive as one and two, where one is saying that bipolar means highly intelligent, and the other is saying that people who are creative are suffering from mental problem. Okay, now comes four. Mental disorders give birth to genius. God, this is so far-fetched. Bringing up entirely different proposition, entirely different idea into play. So even 4 is not right. So what is right? 3. So my correct answer is 3. So okay guys, that was the last question for today. If you guys have any doubts, I'll tell you how to solve it. And even if you could not see the PPT for some reason, you can contact me on Telegram using this particular username Shalinee14 से मुझे टेलीग्राम पे आप मैसेज करना, क्या डाउट्स है क्या नहीं, कोई मोटिवेशन चाहिए, कोई क्लैरिटी चाहिए, कुछ भी चाहिए रिगार्डिंग कैट, इवन फॉर अदर सेक्शंस प्लीज फील फ्री टू कॉन्टैक्ट कि क्या पढ़ना है क्या नहीं, ये बुक पढ़ रहा हूँ, डीमोटिवेटेड हूँ, एनालाइज करा नहीं बना, स्पीड नहीं आ रही, एक्यूरेसी नहीं आ रही, एनीथिंग, free feel free to contact me. Thank you. See you soon. I have some great strategy videos for ZAT and for CAT in at 2:30 p.m. and 3 p.m. I really wish to see you all live. It will be really helpful, even if this was not helpful as